Hello and welcome to the book show on Diversity Television. I'm Ava Colopy, a writer of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. My work primarily focuses on social issues and how they play out in family dramas. We are in Ireland, the land of literature and academia. So today I'm going to talk about the garment industry. Hence I'm drawing unusual attention to my clothes. So I'm going to talk about this book, Sewing Hope. How One Factory Challenges the Apparel Industry's Sweatshops by Sarah Adler-Milstein and John M. Kline. So this book really shows the relationship between the activism in the garment industry and how these good intentions often play out, and sometimes with consequences that end up being negative and were not what was intended by some well-intentioned people who are just trying to look out for these workers who are overworked, exploited, usually women. Often you have them teenage girls and single moms. So they one of the things the industry does is it claims, oh, these women, they're generally not breadwinners, they're just making some extra money for their families. Oftentimes that's not even the case. You have exploited teenage girls and single moms, and it is the family's only source of income. They also point out how consumers need to take action to change this dynamic. So let's look at this. For example, if activists in Bangladesh get workers a living wage at one factory, what's to stop a company from going to another to save money in the so-called race to the bottom? Or if you get the government in a country to change its laws, how can you make sure those laws are being enforced? They might not even have the manpower to check all the factories to make sure that they're being enforced, or a lot of times small factories pop up here and there before faster than the authorities can keep track of it. And you have to make sure these companies then don't just simply move production to another country where there are less strict laws. People, consumers, have to be willing to pay more and also able to pay more because, as many of us know, the majority of the people in the more developed countries don't have that much money. A lot of them are working 2 or 3 jobs to try to make sure their mortgages get paid and may not be in a position to spend that much more money on more expensive clothes, especially with clothes these days being things that don't last very long. Most of them are not made to last very long, which is highly unfortunate for several reasons, as any environmentalist will tell you. So this book is very realistic rather than idealistic, which I really like in anything that focuses on sort of social issues and activism. Let's be realistic about what we can actually do. So it focuses on one example, which is the Alta Gracia factory in the Dominican Republic, which makes college/university jerseys for U.S. consumers, and it gets into how student activists, these consumers, force this industry to source its jerseys from a more ethical factory. So getting back into my discussion of this book, or really our discussion of it, it shows the lives of workers as well, so it doesn't just focus on kind of the numbers and the issues, it humanizes it by telling you about their lives. And focusing on this one factory, and particularly the longtime garment worker and then eventual union organizer and activist and single mom, Yenny. It talks about the abuses in the garment manufacturing industry and the logistics of working to change it, and humanizes the experience. Now, I have only 2 criticisms of it. One is that it perhaps vilifies capitalism and people who want to make money a little too much. Focusing on that, we would not have the modern economy that we do today without the business people who run businesses and promote businesses. My father had his own small business. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have your own business or make money, and I think it's important that we see that and don't just have an idea that there's only one narrative. But my other criticism would be that it acts as if these women, some of them having pregnancy after pregnancy, child after child, is something that they're innocent victims of, especially the ones who are not married, because I know sometimes married women are in the kind of marriages where they don't have a say. So it portrays it as if this is something they cannot have a choice in. Whereas as a general rule, I don't believe in portraying anyone as an innocent victim of their own personal life choices, because some of them we see in the book have access to birth control, and therefore they have the knowledge and they have the access. They could make the decision to either use the birth control or to abstain from sex and stop bringing more children into poverty, but I don't know if that's something that's in their mentality or if they feel like this is an obligation. So those would be my two criticisms of the book, but it's still very interesting and shows you some of how difficult it is to actually change this social issue of this part of the supply chain of manufacturing and how the workers are treated in the manufacturing plants. And I think we can work a way at improving this without vilifying shop owners or business owners, because I don't think we need to be vilifying anyone. We can just try to have a conversation and work on some constructive solutions. So with that in mind, I will read an excerpt from the book. The brunt of unsafe conditions and low wages are borne primarily by women workers who make up the majority of the apparel industry. In addition, many women workers face the kind of sexual and gender-based harassment that was uncovered at BJ&B. A report on the Cambodian apparel industry found that women workers faced pregnancy-based discrimination, sexual harassment, and denial of maternity benefits. This occurred even though Cambodian labor law provides protection for pregnant workers and prohibits sexual harassment. The International Labour Organization, ILO, studies in Cambodia and China found similar results, with 1 in 5 women workers reporting being a victim of sexual harassment, which obviously has nothing to do with shop owners and business owners being able to make money. So they can't argue that this is in any way a necessity of the supply chain. A clergyman who visited a factory in Guatemala described a supervisor who acquired sexual favors in exchange for a bathroom pass and punched female workers in the stomach twice a month to ensure they were not pregnant. Workers who chose to speak out against the low wages and abusive conditions face systematic threats and violations of their legally protected association rights to form a union. Even countries that have ratified ILO conventions and passed corresponding national laws lack effective enforcement due to either insufficient capability or complicity in management's anti-union activities. The U.S. State Department reports that the Dominican Republic's labor code prohibits dismissing workers due to union involvement. However, in practice, some firms fired workers associated with union activities. The report goes on to note that the country's labor ministry lacks the resources to monitor labor abuses effectively, and few violations are reported and even fewer are prosecuted and penalized. In addition, in the global competition for jobs, governments are often under intense pressure to loosen labor regulations and look the other way or risk losing foreign investment to another low-wage apparel producing country. In some cases, local factory owners are involved in or have government ties, allowing them to use their influence to evade labor laws. So with this, we begin to see some of how complex this issue actually is. And at the same time, it's not a depressing book, because we see with the Altagracia factory that there is hope and there are ways that we can improve things, and I think without going around attacking people or vilifying a group of people, we can say, okay, we're all in this together and we're all on this planet together. Let's start this conversation and see how we can improve conditions for everyone. So that is the book that I'm recommending this time, Sowing Hope. And thank you for watching the book show on Diversity Television. I'm Ava Colopy in Ireland, and to all our viewers out there, I hope you find what you're looking for.